Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to be talking about the Big Buddy heater and the Dawes propane adapter tank. Now I'm going to start off by saying on this Dawes hose, you're probably going to find a lot of other hoses that do not say Dawes as a brand. Based on what I could find, I don't believe Dawes actually makes anything, namely this hose, as far as we're concerned. I believe Dawes is just a third party that's throwing their name on it and reselling it. I don't know who actually makes this hose, but because Dawes is the one I bought off Amazon, that's what I'm going to be referring to in this video. So I want to start off with the Buddy heater itself. This is a really good unit. This is the Big Buddy heater specifically. There is a difference between the Buddies and the Big Buddies. Big Buddies can take 2 tanks and they have a high setting, whereas Buddy heaters, I think they may say high, but comparatively to this one, those highs would be a low and medium. I do also have a 1 pound propane tank that you would normally use in these. They just really suck comparatively to a 15 pound tank. I'll cover that here a little bit further. I want to touch on the functions of these items first. So the Big Buddy heater, it has, like I said, a low, medium, and a high. It is a really great heater. We've had it for a few years now, and it's gotten us through some strong winters. We live in a near 100-year-old house right now with virtually no insulation. We've been going through, we've been remodeling, and we've done a lot of work. We still have a lot of work to go, and we rely on gas heating in this house. We don't have central heat and air. So this thing has been amazing. And it is safe to use indoors. You can find spec sheets and everything that talks about it, but I'm just going to speak on my own personal experience and say we've never had problems and we've used it a lot. Through most of using it, we have used these 1 pound tanks. It was actually around the end of last winter that we picked up the adapter and a 15 pound tank. And I will say I can pretty much never go back. I have a handful of these 1 pound tanks left over. But that's more of just emergency use now. I don't really plan to use them if I don't have to. We have moved over to using this as more of an auxiliary heat or an emergency backup heat if needed. We don't use this heater so much now, but if we do, it will pretty much cook a room out very quickly. I would say if you're in a small room, like a more cramped area, you're probably looking at 15 minutes and you're going to start to notice a difference in that room if you're running this on high. If you're in a room like the one I'm in now, this is a decent sized room, you're probably looking at 30 to 45 minutes and you're going to start noticing it. But it is very solid. Now with the hose adapter, there's really not a lot I can say on this thing. I mean, it just hooks up to both ends. It runs gas from the tank to the heater. It does its job. There's not a lot more to say on it, but I can talk about pricing, and that's where it really starts to make a difference here. This heater, depending on where you're getting it, when you're buying it, you're looking at roughly $100 to $200. I think I honestly spent about $80 when I bought mine a few years ago, but I cannot for the life of me find one for that price now. I believe this one's about $120 or $130 on Amazon right now. This hose, on the other hand, is roughly about $17 on Amazon at the time of this video. These small tanks, everywhere I'm finding in my area, they're ranging $7 to $10 for a single 1 pound little bottle, which really sucks when you compare that this is a 15 pound propane tank. And to initially buy one, if you don't have a propane tank yet, we spent $50 getting this tank full of propane, but every time after that we have needed to refill it, it's only been $20 to exchange it for a full tank. And that is a really good deal when you consider that this is roughly $7 to $10 per pound, and this is roughly $1.33 per pound for a refill. And it just goes so much longer. This heater, since it has a high setting, it can take 2 of these tanks, and on that high setting it says it can last for about an hour. I've never seen that actually work. In my experience, it's closer to 30, maybe 45 minutes if you're lucky. This, on the other hand, it usually takes us a very long time to run this tank out. And I cannot stress enough that if you're going to run one of these heaters and you need it for more than just moving around purposes, you really should invest in one of these. The only time I'd really recommend these small cans anymore is if you really you want to throw it in the back of your car, back of your truck, you're going to go camping and you don't have space for this massive heater. But I'm willing to believe that if you're watching this video, you're far more interested in the concept of this hose so you can use this tank on this heater. Because that meant a lot to me when I got it. When we first got it, we knew nothing about these. I was very amateur and I just needed something, and I really needed the heat. And this was just a game changer for our lives. So I cannot stress enough how much I feel as though this $17 hose is incredibly worth it if you're running one of these heaters. If you're heating your house, I would say you need it. If you're heating a camping site, anything like that, I would still say you would be really happy to get it. Just if anything, for the longevity of being able to run one of these tanks for so much longer and not constantly changing these cans out every 30 minutes to an hour. To go a little bit further with that, on price-wise, like I said, this is just so much worth it. You're going to save a lot of money. There's not a lot of function to these things. On this heater, there's a pilot, and which it says pilot. This took me a while to learn when I first got it, but there's a small trick to it, and I'll show you real quick, and I'll light it up so you can see. You're going to flip it over to pilot. Upon doing that, you're going to hear the clicking noise, and you're going to see a little bit of a spark down there. And you're just going to keep doing that until you actually see a fire, and at which point you see that fire, you just hold the switch down. I've got a fire. In my experience, they say there's a timer you're supposed to hold this light for. The first time you ever light your buddy heater, it takes a while. You've got to break through that initial factory crud. But once you get past that, you're good. In my experience now, there's a little bit of igniter on the bottom there. Once you see that glowing orange, like it is, you can just turn it over to a temperature. So, like this, I've got it over on low. You'll see one side will ignite. Now, if I switch it over to medium, you're going to get a little more heat. Now, on high, both sides will ignite. I'm not going to leave this running for very long because it's already warm in my house, and this is probably going to cook me, but I wanted to give an idea of how to make it work. And turning it off is quite as simple as just going over it off, and it shuts off. Propane tank, on the other hand, there's really not a lot to explain on this end. You're just going to screw this into the hose, into your heater. You want to make sure that, I've never tested this, but from everything I've read, you don't actually want a tank on this end. Just leave this other end open. It's got its own safety shut-off valve hooked up to it, so if there's no tank hooked up on this end, it just stays closed. You don't have to worry about it. Then you're going to run this over to your tank. This is going to sound a little stupid, but a lot of people fumble, including me, fumble with screwing this in. This is a reverse thread on this tank. So you're not going, if you start trying to turn it right and it doesn't go in, don't feel bad. Turn it left and you're good. It will work. Then once you've done that, open up your tank, turning that left, mind you, and get some gas going in it, and you're good to go. I mean, it's really as simple as that. There's not a lot to explain with the function of this. There is, if you're a specs nerd, I'm going to link Amazon links for both of these items so that you can go and find them for yourselves, and they will have all the specs on the item. There's really not a lot of specs that you can know on this. There are longer versions of the Dazient hose. I believe there's a 12-foot version. This is a 5-foot. I really didn't see any reason for me having longer than that. But if you do, there are longer variations of that hose. And you can find all the specs for this on BTUs and what it's going to do for you heat-wise. I don't have the information on me. I go more off of, does it keep me warm? Yes, it does. That's awesome. This one specifically does have a built-in fan. This is an older model that had that. So that's the only variation between this one and the one on the Amazon link. I really don't use that fan because it burns through batteries so quick that I haven't felt a need for it, and it still, even without the fan, heats up the room super quick. I will say, if you don't have the built-in fan option, which is hard to find now, it's not a big deal. If you do have an option for a fan in your house, whether it be a ceiling fan or a box fan, you can just turn that on, get some heat circulating, and it's really, really good. I have found that if I leave one of these on for about 20-30 minutes, then I turn the ceiling fan on low just to keep that heat pushing down from the ceiling, you can pretty much cook everyone in the room, and it's awesome. So there's really not much left to cover. Like I said, I'm going to link the links for these items in the top comment and in the about section so you can find them for yourself. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I'll always respond to comments as much as I can. But that is about it for the Big Buddy Buddy Heater and the Dazient propane hose.